Okay, and hello, it's another short film. This one just to show us how one way we can just access that control area with the hot tub recessed all the way down as low as it can go. And I started this by just looking at some films of people taking that panel off of the Bullfrog Model A6L.
Here's how you remove the door. Finger up in there, pull your trim strip up. Then reach in here about a foot in, pull the door off. Have lights on the back of the door. Doesn't matter where each one goes.
Okay.
So I'll go through this pretty quick because it changes here and there. And so that's that platform down there holding up the hot tub. And there were a number of things that I horsed around with. For one thing, probably there's going to be border plank around that hot tub so that we can close in those corners all the way like that. So then you've got something like that. Those are those border planks laid out the way they would need to be laid out. And that little piece up there, that's that closure joist, that trimmer, or that whatever you want to call that, that rim joist on those ones, and that continues on across this opening. And this is laid out according to the way I laid out all these floor joists across the whole structure. And what's shown, what I had started with, it was a 20-inch opening here, and I just left all the joists as they were and ended up making that about a 25-inch opening, like that. So now we have that. And we continue that platform, we continue those joists at 12 inches on center, and we continue that platform up to the end of that opening, up to the end of that 25-inch opening. And so then you have that platform continues. The loading is less here because it's not got the hot tub on it. But it could still, I mean, theoretically that hot tub can be anywhere on there because that's all going to be the same construction underneath there. So there were these 2x6s at 12 inches on center under that hot tub, which were required, and I relayed those out from this end, and that's how many you have. This last one's probably closer to 16, but they have to be less than 16, so we knew we were going to have that many. So this is all 12 inches on center, and then your last one here, and this joist just lays out naturally from the floor plan, framing plan basically, and that you end up with about 25 inches from the hot tub to the face of that joist there. We have something like this, and we know those pieces are going to have to move. That piece anyhow, and maybe those side pieces as well, maybe those two pieces as well, I'm not sure. But we can't have that piece coming across there holding that or holding the end of any deck boards. And I looked at using 2x4s across this span to see if that would work, and that does not work either by, well, for one thing, the code, the residential code, doesn't even list 2x4s as a possibility, but I went through and tried it on this as well, and it doesn't work with 2x4s. I wanted to reduce it to 2x4s because of the weight of those things, so I ended up splitting that into two spans with 2x4s, and that passes, with great numbers over here. So the doors, the access doors, or the coverings are going to be made of 2x4s like that. And then this is kind of how they would be put together, where I have this dark one back here so that you can see that the side caps that dark one, and at the end of this story, this one caps that one as well. But this one's here. In the event you were going to hinge this whole structure, you'd have to take some time because it would have to hinge at the edge of it, the last deck board, which is back here. As it is, it wants to hinge right here, so you would have to put some more thought into hinging that at that end. But I left that alone, and I can't tell whether those are going to have to come off or not. From those films, it looked like maybe that one would not have to come off. Those side ones would not have to come off, but they might have to. They don't have to be the whole long length, maybe just those are seamed somewhere, but in any event they might have to come off. And then we've got this framework to hold this covering, trapdoor, whatever you want to call it. We've got this framework here, and we're just going to put an 8.5 inch high piece, and I have it colored lighter so you can see it. 8.5 inch high piece at this end. It's just nailed to that beam for that thing to sit on at that end. And then I looked a lot harder at the hot tub, what is exactly happening with the Bullfrog A6L, and finished putting that actual model of that together. This is much closer to what the Bullfrog is than that was. And you really, this 4 inches, that you don't need access there at the bottom, that 4 inches, that first 4 inches. So I had first put a 4x4 down there, and then I put it in the center, and then I put a couple flanking pieces on that. But as it turns out, that all works better if those are just 3 pieces all together without the 4x4. Yeah, without the 4x4 at all. Just 3 2x12 or 2x10s, cut to 8.5 inches high, and then this end can be notched however you want it to be notched. I have it notched back at a 45 from the base of this panel, but from those films, that panel just needs, it looks like it just has to swing out less than an inch or so, and then drop down. So if you go back to that section, there's that panel, and so I have it so that it could rotate out like all the way like that, but as soon as it's out here a little bit, an inch or so, it's enough. Now those are those 3 blocks, the 8.5 inch high blocks that are permanently fastened to this platform down here, and those will hold these trapdoors. This last bit of this is cantilevered over here. All this weight, that last little bit is just cantilevered, and that will work as well. And we have that underneath then, and so these door frameworks are coming down where this, all these members, even a little bit of the joists themselves, are coming down on top of this support. For that matter, maybe you just make this 4 wide and pick up even more of those joists, which is what I would do. Probably what I would show is just big blocking here. I mean, you could probably use just blocking between here, 2x4s, but then the important ones have this 4 plies wide. And then that's all put back together like that, and you have, you know, the seam around your border plank and the seam here. Again, I did not consider hinging this in a variety of ways, and I could have hinged a whole big thing, a whole long thing here, and have it fold back this way, or I could hinge each of those doors here and here and fold back this way. But it's not set up for hinging right now. It's set up for just picking those things up and moving them aside. Putting one back, putting the other back, and then putting that filler piece back. And I could have taken another 2 or 3 hours, probably, maybe less, maybe more, and designed something that would be hinged at those ends, at those short ends. And then the one to the east would lift up from the edge and lean back against that railing, and the one on the west would lean against the little bar thing. But if that doesn't happen, you'll need some sort of handle, stainless steel, to lift those up out of the deck and set them aside. And I would think you would need 2 of those on each panel. This panel is going to weigh about 66 pounds a piece, even cutting them in half like that. So either a hinged solution is further come up with between now and the time that's built, or those are just lifted up out of there. I don't know how often you're going to have to access that area. In any event, that's going to wrap this up, and I can just do the construction drawings with what we've shown so far, lift handles on those panels. And I think that will get us through, because yeah, I looked up these details, and that's when I adjusted the thing. But that's it. A little bit here beyond that, and as I said, this could be improved upon, particularly with hinging, but I just don't know how often it has to be lifted up and out of there. As I said, it should weigh about 65 pounds, each of those panels. Okay, I think that's about it. For the purposes, I have to get this filled in and all that, but for the purposes of these construction drawings, you'll probably agree this is good enough for now. But I frankly think that we should investigate hinging this, unless you don't think those are coming off very often. In terms of those lift handles, I would put them here and here. Figure out how best a person's going to be able to stand and lift that 65-pound thing off and put it over here. But if you want me to, between now and the time this is put together, which has got to be at least a month and a half, I would think anyway, but if it's quicker, it's fine. I can put together a plan that lets these hinge here. But I just got it this far for now, and let me know, and I'll have these construction drawings over to you sometime tomorrow, probably before noon tomorrow. So that's all for now. Thanks very much.